what Harrison Phillips said, that a defensive tackle is like a fire hydrant at a dog show. You've got to roll. You're the guy who's going to get pissed on. That is his quote.
Oh my gosh.
This is the Buffalo Plus Podcast, brought to you by Connors and Ferris.
All right, welcome back to the Buffalo Plus Podcast, presented by Connors and Ferris. Mike Catalana, Dan Fates. I am Jenna Cottrell. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. We're going to talk a little bit about Stefon Diggs going to the Patriots, how a Hallmark movie and the Buffalo Bills are now coming together, and D-line and prospects ahead as the NFL draft. We know less than a month away, but I want to start with the news.
You always come to me first. You start with this because you were so excited.
Okay,
about the
I
Hallmark.
love Hallmark movies. Are they terrible? Yes. Are they cheesy? Absolutely. Are they horrific usually? Yes, but I still love them. And when I saw the news that the Bills were going to be featured in a Hallmark movie, a Christmas movie, I was really excited. It's kind of cool to see Buffalo get some shine. And also, I'm excited for a viewing party watching with my family. And I love Hallmark movies.
That's okay. I mean,
Yeah,
I've
no,
seen
I
some
know.
Hallmark movies. They're very predictable.
That's why I love them. Because there's so much insanity going on that I love that you can sit down, you know, it's a woman who's leaving a situation, trying for a fresh start.
She's in the big city.
She's in the big city. She moves back. Okay, well, let's theorize because
Okay.
I have thoughts on this Hallmark. What
the plot
will be. Okay, here's my thought. I think it's like rival chicken wing businesses. And it's like a family business. And then the woman comes back to Buffalo and is like joining the family business. And it's an enemies to lovers type of situation.
And there's, as always, every year, right before Christmas, there's a chicken wing festival in Buffalo.
Yes.
Right? Because they're going to
yeah.
have a festival.
Yes.
I think those movies
and like
always
the
have a festival.
players are going to have their favorite spots. And so it's going to be like, oh, well, this player said, Dion Dawkins says he loves Betty's wings better.
Dion's in it.
I already made Dion in it. If you need a character, you need Dion.
Yeah, I think at some point there will be somebody stuck in snow.
Yes.
Yeah, oh, good call.
Ooh, yes.
And Squirrel gets him out.
Oh.
No.
Yeah.
No,
it's the
girl
night.
is stuck in snow.
Yeah.
Guy gets her out. They get into an argument.
It's enemies to lovers.
Yes.
I'm calling it right now.
Yes.
Enemies to lovers.
Could it also be somebody goes through a table, is injured? They go to the hospital. That nurse takes care of them.
There's also that.
This
is
great.
Hallmark.
It is great. And sorry for anybody listening at home. My voice is on its last leg. Shout out to Bills Mafia and everybody in Buffalo, like getting the shine of a Hallmark movie, because
It's so cool.
like, there is nobody I think that like hates Hallmark movies. You like them.
There's definitely people that hate them.
I think you like them ironically.
Well, a lot of people hated it last year because it was about the Chiefs.
Yes.
Because everybody was sick of seeing the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Then they made a Hallmark movie about him. Wasn't Andy Reid in it?
I believe so.
Yeah.
And
He's a hell of an
Kelsey's
actor.
mom.
I
Yes.
actually did not watch that one. I couldn't.
Shocking.
Right. But so they do that. But now it's about the Bills. So now it's good.
Yeah.
Now it's good. So the big question is, does 17 make an appearance in the movie?
100%.
So Skydance Sports is a part of it. We know that Josh recently signed with Skydance. Now, could it be for a completely different project? Probably. But I feel like if you're going to make a Hallmark movie and talk about the Bills, you got to have Josh Allen in it. Although, is that what he wants his acting debut to be? Is a completely different story.
So I also said to you guys, even if they're playing themselves, like I think DeMar is the one who announced it. So DeMar's going to be in the movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
Even if you're playing yourself, it's still acting because you're reading lines.
Yeah.
So you
Yes.
still have to act. Josh, we already know, probably be a pretty good actor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
He will play the role like, what's his name? Who's he always does the bits?
Oh, Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt.
Yes.
Can you be that in a Hallmark movie?
He is Chris Pratt so much.
Right. Dion will be good.
Yeah. We are already putting Dion. Dion is not officially in this movie.
Keon's in the movie.
No, zero
No.
chance.
No way.
No.
No way.
No.
I will bet on it.
No.
What do you want? What's the wager?
I could absolutely see Khalil Shakir being in the movie.
He like pulls up in his Subaru.
Shakir, do you have it in there?
Khalil Shakir,
I can't read that.
best friend. He's a good person in whatever the scene is.
Yeah, people are gonna be like, "Oh, that actor is so good at playing a football player," and you're like, "That's actually a football player."
And by the way, he probably watches some Hallmark movies.
Yeah. I could definitely see that.
Who'd be a bad actor in it? Who's going to be?
Keon. I don't think Keon
Keon's
would
not
be a good
gonna be in it.
actor.
He's too
Keon's to himself.
Keon will
he's
make a cameo. I'm not saying he's got a role. He's got a cameo.
I don't. Does he have a line?
Yes.
Oh, you know who?
I don't think so.
Ed Oliver.
Oh, Ed would be great.
Who's going to be bad in it?
Like a bad guy?
Bad actor in it. Like just will.
Oh, I
screw
would
up his
say
line.
like. I mean, these guys are actors, so I would imagine it's going to be some bad acting.
Yeah.
Dawson Knox is also going to be in it.
I could see Dawson being in it.
God, how many? I have no idea how many Chiefs were in the movie.
There will be another cameo from Slick Rick. Slick Rick's in the movie somehow.
I don't think it goes that deep into the Bills.
I don't think so either.
If it was produced by the Bills, baby.
I think that there will be an appearance, and you may not know it, but I think I think they are trying to incorporate. It's going to be shot around Highmark Stadium.
Yeah.
If you don't think Slick Rick is going to be,
Slick Rick could have a spot. Yeah. Yeah. He'll be delivering Christmas presents. Yeah.
That's sweet.
That would be nice.
In his new car.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
McDermott. He makes some pretty.
I could see McDermott in it. Yeah.
Not sure Coach delivers the line well. I don't know. We saw him doing a little acting for us.
Yes.
In the podcast.
The stairs.
Doing the stairs, the dad stuff. Tells a dad joke, maybe.
And I'm going to try and get some inside info. Because what if Brother Bill gets in it?
Oh, yeah.
Brother Bill, another guy, friend of the pod, the channel. He's been in enough commercials.
Yeah.
Well known.
This is, you got to keep in mind, this is a Hallmark production. This is not a Buffalo Bills production.
But it's in partnership with the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't know how much
could be playing fans. Yeah. You know, they're you definitely gonna have.
In the Chiefs movie, I was told that there's a part where like Jenna Bush was like doing commentary on the Chiefs and like.
There you go, Jenna Cottrell.
I was gonna say I would love to do that. I'm casting myself. I don't know. I love Hallmark movies because like the time of year, and you're right. They're very predictable, but it's fun to just sit down, watch. You know, it's going to be a happy ending. It's going to be hilarious at some points, ironically so, and then other moments you're like, this is heartwarming. So it's cool to see the Bills get that attention, and I know a lot of people in Western New York are excited about it.
Will the Bills win the Super Bowl in this Hallmark movie? Is that tied into it?
It's a Christmas movie, so maybe that's just like at the end.
I would say I feel like they'll like allude to it, but they won't like have it. Yeah,
they got to win.
Well, yeah, they have to win for so many reasons.
Also, throw something out there. Jim Kelly may make an appearance in it.
I could see that. Yep.
I could see Jim make an appearance. There's also, at the same time, there's going to be a horror movie starring the New York Jets. So
it's amazing. And that kicks off September 7th.
Right.
Oh, Michael, that was great.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk a little bit other news stuff going on.
Oh, there was more than the Hallmark movie?
Well, there's some other news.
Okay.
Stefon Diggs signing with the Patriots, a 3-year deal, worth a lot of monies, and coming off the ACL injury, so he will now be playing against Buffalo twice a season, at least for the next couple of years. At least it is. At least that's how it's expected to play out.
So let's start with this. The Bills won the trade. Texans gave them what ended up being Minnesota's 2nd-round pick. Played not even a year, obviously. Unfortunately for Diggs, he got hurt. So before he was even still with the Texans, the Bills are getting that pick from Minnesota, so they'll use it in this year's draft. So he's gone from there. Goes to New England. Listen, it's probably a pretty smart move for New England. They need a player.
Yeah.
They weren't going to get a lot of guys who want to go running there. Diggs did. He's getting paid more than I think he normally would coming off the ACL at his age. So good for him that he got more money. I think he'll help Drake May. I don't know if he's not going to help him to the level that he helped Josh Allen. I don't think at this point of his career. I get it from both sides. Diggs gets more money and the Patriots get a legitimate receiver.
And much like we've heard from a lot of these contracts, I think Albert Breer had it that there's an opt-out after 1 year. So like, again, you can cut ties. Who knows how it, all works out with Diggs, but he was productive in Houston for those 7.5 games. Like, it wasn't like he fell off a cliff once he left Buffalo. So I think this makes a lot of sense. I think Diggs is by far their best wide receiver in that room right now. They needed guys to catch passes, and New England had a ton of money to give. They've given out a lot of it. And I think there is a little bit, like what we expected with Vrabel. Guys do want to play for Vrabel. Money helps, but I think Vrabel is also a big enough name that has earned the respect of being a well-known coach that guys like to play for.
I feel like that is a bonus, but if I'm Diggs, the market for him, I can't imagine was that
especially coming off the
plentiful.
ACL.
Coming off the ACL. He's going to be 32 years old this season. And they were going to pay him money that would be hard to say no to. So I think Vrabel is like, oh, that's great. But I don't think that to me was like, oh, that's a huge selling point.
They're like the Bills used to be. They're overpaying for a guy because they're not going to get players. Listen, I don't begrudge the guy the money. They can give him whatever they want.
Correct.
I'm glad he got his money. He did bet on himself. He tore his ACL. That's tough.
Yep.
But that's the way it goes in the NFL. But like for the Bills, they move on from Diggs. Josh wins the MVP.
Yeah.
And now you get a second round pick still to try to add to the team. So it worked out for them. Him playing him twice a year, that means very little to me. It doesn't. I think the games will be something. I just think the NFL is very different that way.
How so?
It's not like baseball or basketball. I guess even hockey, because in hockey, when the guys got the puck, I just don't think the reaction, maybe a little pregame first time he's there, but Diggs was cool with the fans and like at the stadium. He's always done that stuff. He'll do the playing catch with fans. He'll do that again and all, and everybody will play nice like they did in Houston. I just think football is just different. It's harder to like get after a player. Like, I know you were talking about them booing him. I guess people will boo. I just don't see that much in NFL games.
You don't think after he catches his first pass back in Buffalo that there'll be applause?
No, there'll be boos, but I don't think it's
I don't think it's going to be the whole stadium booing him.
It's just shocking how like quickly we are forgetting the celebration and the backlash that Diggs got from whether it was the "you sure" tweet, whether it was him showing him up at the sidelines. Like my tweet and what you're referencing is what we were kind of starting to talk about. Is I said Sabres fans still boo Jack Eichel when he comes back to Buffalo. So I said I can only imagine what a return to Orchard Park will be like, because like what you said, it was in Houston, like it wasn't in Buffalo, and it wasn't this primetime game. And I'm not saying a New England Bills game is going to be a primetime game, but Diggs didn't leave with like, love you guys, this was awesome, I had a blast. Like, as I've said, and I've been on Stefon Diggs' side, like I've been sitting there like, Diggs wants to win so badly. And I think that was a big part of Josh's growth and all of those things. And we're not going to rehash who made who. But when it comes down to it, and I was talking to Giardi about it because he texted me when New England was bringing him in for a visit. And I thought Giardi said it best. Diggs wants to win very badly. And you want guys like that in your locker room.
Yeah.
The problem is that Diggs thinks the only way to win is by throwing him the ball a ton. And at this point in his career, he's not that guy. But I still see this as a marriage that went south. It didn't end well. They can all be cordial and stuff like that in press conferences and talking about one another. But I still don't think that like all is forgotten for some of Diggs' antics to the fans. I could care less. We've always been on here being like, Diggs can tweet whatever he wants. Diggs said, stay off my social media. But there was some sense of animosity and there was some bad blood when he left. So the fact that he'll come back 2 years later wearing a New England Patriots jersey and everybody will be like, it's fine. Thanks for those 4 years, Diggs. I don't see happening.
I'm not saying it's all fine, and I'm not saying there won't be some animosity. I think there'll be some. I think Diggs was still very popular in the comparison to Jack Eichel. Jack Eichel was the consolation prize when they thought they were going to get McDavid. He never embraced the city. He's a very good player, but he was the focal point of the city. Just was a cranky guy the whole time he was there. Diggs was really loved for a while, and then it went south. But honestly, maybe it's just, maybe I just look at it. I don't know if Jenna does. I guess people are mad at him, I guess, but the Bills ended up trading him and they moved on from him. And and I know he wants to win. He wants to win. He went to New England. That team stinks. And they may get better. He went to New England because they paid him. He wanted the money. I don't begrudge him the money.
Yep.
But, there's a lot of better circumstances he could have gone to football-wise.
I just think, too, it's such a different circumstance comparing Eichel to Diggs because Eichel was drafted by Buffalo and also the success that he has had since leaving. Like, I think he was in Buffalo so much longer. Like Mike said, he never embraced Western New York, the city. Like, he was a ornery type of guy and made that very well known, whereas Diggs was beloved by fans until things went south. And I just think the impact that Diggs had was positive until it wasn't, whereas I don't know. I just don't think it's the same. I don't expect it to be the fervor that you hear with Eichel being in town. And Eichel is still booed because he even has taken shots of like, oh, this is the loudest I've heard this arena.
Yes.
I don't expect Diggs to do that. And I don't expect it to be like, will some people boo? Absolutely. But I feel like it's almost when you talk about the marriage gone south of like the Bills have done so much better.
Yes.
Where it's kind of like beneath them, I think, a little bit to boo.
I think you're giving a little bit too much credit to Bills fans.
I think a lot of Bills fans, there'll be a good percentage wearing their 14 Diggs jerseys to the game.
I don't know about that, but
if they still own a Diggs jersey, people would. I think he was still pretty well liked. I don't think he was hated.
I think the people that hate him despise him, but I think most people. I think people
hated him when he was on the Bills and were sick and tired and wanted him gone after the Cincinnati game.
Yeah, but then I feel like because he left, because he tore his ACL, because he now is signing with the Patriots team that is obviously a shell of what New England has been. It's like, we don't need to boo you. You are the circumstances that you are in are a direct result of your actions. Yeah. I think a lot of fans are just like, okay, yeah, you're back in Buffalo. Yeah, you might catch that pass from Drake May, but what are you actually going to do? You're so hungry to win. You sign with a team that's obviously rebuilding.
Again, I was always on Jack Eichel's side with his whole surgery, wanting to have the surgery on his own body. And it's what I always remember telling people, like, Jack wanted to have a somewhat experimental surgery. The team didn't want him to. He pretty much was forced away out to trade so that he could have the surgery that he wanted. And I always make that comparison of if Josh Allen wanted to get a surgery, the team would let him get a surgery.
Yeah, I would say that you're right. That was at the end. That's just the way it ended. It was bad leading up to that.
Yeah, it was already bad.
And again, I understand the circumstances of the team being different, but like, Jack wanted to win. Jack made them relevant. Jack made the Sabres relevant for a decent amount of time. They didn't win, and we can always argue the fact of, just like in football, just like in hockey, one guy can't. It's not LeBron. One guy can't dictate the whole game. So I was always on the side of Eichel. I was always on the side of Diggs. Of he is who he is, and he's a guy that at the time you wanted in your locker room because I thought his play outweighed kind of that noise and stuff. But as I said with Diggs, like, it's an expiration date, you move on. And I get it. Jack has probably thrown a few more jabs on the way out. I think it was much more bitter, but I think fan-wise, both felt annoyed by the player at the end.
I think some of it's going to depend on the circumstance too. If New England, first of all, I don't think he's going to play in the beginning of the year, but say they don't come to Buffalo till November 17th and they come in at 8-5 and he's having a great year, I think the fans may be a little more pissed off at him just because it's working out for him.
Right.
I think it's more likely
I don't think New England's going to be as bad as they were last year.
No, they were really bad last year, but they should have had the number one pick.
Yep.
Yeah, they'll definitely be better and better coached. And I don't even know what kind of success he'll have.
You commented your thoughts on Diggs being back in New England and whether you think the reception or his return to Orchard Park, what you think it'd be like.
I will tell you this. I think the main reason I thought of it is I just don't see that often in a football game. Especially when the guy's a wide receiver. Maybe it's a boo when he catches the ball. There's very few players who bring, like Deion Sanders had that when he left the Cowboys, when he was with the Niners and all that. There's certain guys, there's a little bit of that. It's just very different in other sports. That's the only reason I kind of look at it as like, Might be that moment pregame. I think it's a mixed reaction. And I think it depends on when it is. But
Yeah, I mean, like I'm expecting the player, like fans always boo the opposing team running out.
yeah,
May it sound a little bit louder when they see Diggs? Yes. When he catches the pass, yes, but I don't expect it to be everyone, like the whole stadium booing him.
Yeah.
Is that what you think?
I think it'll be. Didn't Beasley come back? And everybody didn't know if it was Booze or Bees.
oh yeah, who was he?
I can't remember who he finished with, but it was because Beasley came out and said that, Josh wasn't that good of a, wasn't his favorite.
Giants?
Is that what it was?
Giants. Yeah, after.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm just saying, I think that is the beauty of fandom. Like you talk about hate.
yeah.
You have talked about hate. I think the way that things kind of went south at the end, I think it still irks a lot of Bills fans, and rightfully so.
Yeah. Oh, no, I agree with you. I think there's people that were that way. But to Jenna's point, like.
And he was great with the Bills.
Yeah.
I just also think they're thankful that he's not on. They're thankful for what he did, and they're thankful he's not on the team. That's where I feel like it's different.
And they're thankful he's not
and
on a
he
good
hasn't
team.
had success.
Last year
Eichel
was worse.
won a Stanley Cup. Like it's so different.
And I agree. If he went to the Ravens,
Different.
different story.
Because a real threat or to
So I understand.
the Chiefs.
I understand that.
He's on the Patriots. And he
Yeah.
took the money. Good for him.
Yeah. No, I agree.
He's with Mac.
I'm gonna miss Mac.
What week do we think he even plays?
Diggs.
They were saying they were hoping he'd be back towards the start, so maybe it's 2 or 3.
Well, they might put him on the pup list.
Yeah.
And he comes back,
Week
week 5? That makes more sense. It's like, I mean, I know there's always that. We always see this. Well, he's going to be back for week 1.
I don't know.
That's a lot to ask of a 30-plus-year-old wide receiver.
Bills fans don't forget a lot. And I think you'll see a lot of you sure signs. I think you'll see a lot of those things because it felt like it was a shot at Josh. Diggs threw, it felt like there were shots at Josh at the end when Josh, as we said, was always doing the right things, was always defending him.
Yeah.
And I know Diggs said some nice things when he first got to Houston, but that was kind of after the dust had settled. When it was still really dusty, it felt like Diggs was not sticking up for his guy and his team.
It's so apples and oranges to me. Like I saw your tweet and I was like, I would never think about it that way.
He was polarizing.
And Jack goes and wins the cup, and the Sabres are a freaking dumpster fire.
I feel like that.
So that doesn't help. Whereas Josh won the MVP, Diggs tore his ACL.
Well, I always think about it too, is if when Sabres fans boo Jack, they're almost booing the front office. And
I agree with you.
They're booing the ownership of Jack is now one of the best 5 players, is on Team USA, is an incredible talent, has turned into a 2-way player that he never was in Buffalo. And that's how it went.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
We'll see. We'll see because that's, part of the schedule when we do the draft.
Do we think they don't come initially to Buffalo and do we think the latter half of the season to ensure that Diggs is out there? That's kind of what I'm envisioning.
I don't think the league gives a crap about it. Just like last year, they didn't care about it it's New England. It's more about New England. I think them thinking New England's a good team. They're going to play there. They're going to get them back there late in the year.
Christmas.
We always go to
Usually
Foxborough late in the year.
Christmas,
Yeah.
You already have that game circled.
How early did they play a division game this past year? I'm trying to remember.
2.
Week
right?
2 was Miami.
Miami.
Right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And we hated them going to Miami in September.
So
they could play
shitty
New
or
England
crappy.
relatively early.
Yeah.
I just
And
meant,
then-
do you think they would wait a little bit to ensure that Diggs is on the field?
No.
Diggs isn't that big of a name anymore.
I just feel like if I were them, I would wait till like October, just so you're got to play that game anyways. Why not wait a little bit?
So there would be some animosity, you think, built up in that game.
But
Well,
I think
look at last
they
year.
will play it up like
Last
that.
year, I said to you guys,
I think the
guys-
NFL always tries to push narratives.
but I
Whether
said,
or not
push the Houston narrative.
whether or not that's true, you don't think they push the
Credit-
narrative about Josh and Diggs?
Credit
being
to
great?
me.
A 1 o'clock Sunday game,
credit to me last year. I said
You're
that's
right.
not a network game
right?
Okay, fine.
because people didn't care as much. And that hell, the matchup itself should have been a bigger game.
Correct.
It was Houston and the Bills.
Yep.
That was a really good team against a really good team, and they didn't. This year, I think the division games come out the way they come out.
Okay.
I
If you're already gonna try to make it something, It's already a division game. Maybe
But
might
you
as
said
well.
it's not anything.
I honestly thought your argument was a straw man.
Wow. Well, there was a little straw.
Yeah.
Little straw.
There was like, to me, I was like, that is not the same.
Okay.
All right.
We got to get him going because his voice is cracking.
I only got so many words left.
All right. Do we want to talk defensive line? Do we want to
Yes.
set it up where they're at now, or do we want to jump into
Well,
prospects?
let's say where they are now because
Okay. So obviously Greg Rousseau, Joey Bosa, they added Daquan Jones, Ed Oliver, guys like that. And then also they have Javon Solomon, AJ Epinesa, Dwayne Carter.
Yeah, and the big ones we talked about were obviously a lot of the people we already know about, but then it's Solomon and Dwayne Carter are kind of what
Question
do they
marks.
have?
well, especially like we talked about with the two guys on the suspensions, it's like, okay, so they need these players to be ready to play. And last year, I checked on it. Carter had 300 snaps for the season, 14 tackles,
Jenna's drinking a Diet Coke, Pepsi during this.
Yeah.
5 tackles for loss, 3 quarterback hits. He had that little stretch. Are we interrupting you? He had that little stretch, made a couple of plays, and then he got hurt.
The Tennessee game, he had a big stop, or Jacksonville. Can't remember one of those games
and
at home.
And actually, in the 2 losses there in the middle, he got a decent amount of snaps. They had a lot of injuries during that time. Javon Solomon, 134 snaps, did have a couple of sacks, 13 tackles. Their contributions were relatively minor. I think they're going to need more out of them. We talk about Daquan, AJ Epinesa, like they already know they need more. And if you can bring in somebody early in the draft that can impact that pass rush, impact the run defense, it's fine to say they have these guys. Those guys weren't good enough.
No,
it wasn't good enough, and it needs to be better. And after you guys heard Bosa, I'm talking to Bosa, you feel like he's gonna play more snaps than
I think so.
feels like he's starting at that
I agree.
other end, right?
I agree.
At least that's what the plan would be. You're going to pay him $13 million.
Yeah.
12 million, what it is.
Yeah. I definitely think that they see him as more than I think we all thought, like Von Miller replacement third down guy. The way that he sounded was definitely being more of he's expecting to be a starter and to have an impact on all 3 downs.
And I think there's ways to give guys breaks. It's not always coming in and out during the series. It's taking 2 series off. Like, you know what I mean? Like you mix it up, and that's where you need, for right now, maybe it is a Javon Solomon who has to step up as a pass rusher, or, eventually when they get Hoyt back or whoever it is that is going to be doing that. But there are guys in this draft that I think could, on this D-line, if they play the way they are projected to play, could impact them right away.
Percentage-wise, how probable do you think it is that they take a defensive lineman? So I feel like I'm like 65%.
So they have 3 picks in the top 60. Well, they have to take one somewhere in those 3 picks.
Yeah.
I don't think, to your point, I don't think it's guaranteed at 30. There is a lot of players. It is funny. I hear everybody say there's a lot of depth. That's great. You can say there's 30 guys. You better pick the right one, because just because you pick a guy there and wait doesn't mean you're the one who says, oh, we got the best player, or we got a better player. We passed up, because the way the draft goes, you're going to look at all the guys that were taken around him. So it does put them in a spot, and we'll know, but is it being aggressive? Is there somebody sitting there that they go, if that guy falls to this point, we'll make a play for him? If not, we feel like a lot of these other guys are closer. But they have a need as an edge rusher, and they have a need in the interior of the defensive line. And they can go either way.
I just feel like it's very probable that they will go D-line, just because of where they're at and what they need. And then also they've taken so many cracks at it already.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously corner, there's other spots, safety, if you want to go wide receiver. I just don't expect them to take wide receiver first round.
The Javon Solomon piece is interesting as to where they go with the edge.
Yeah.
Because Bosa seems like right now a rental.
Right.
So you have to be looking at the future. And when you draft Solomon, did they already have their eye on knowing Vaughn's coming off a second ACL? Where is he coming? And we look at the draft, and I think a lot of people do so much of this year.
Yeah.
But they've also got to be looking 2-3 years down the road. So same thing with wide receiver. Like, okay, like you hope Keon progresses and things like that, but you also have to have backup plans. So I thought Solomon had a couple of nice moments. It was in mop-up duty of games. He had a strip sack against Jacksonville, recovered a fumble in the Patriots game in week 18. So kind of things like that. But they need help of the D-line, especially because of the suspensions.
Yeah. And we always talk about this. D-line is different than any other position on the field. You play a lot of guys on the D-line.
You want them this
close to getting arrested.
This close to getting arrested. That's the attitude you want your D-line.
You want guys that'll get after
terrible.
it, right? This close
is the best line.
Theoretically, not
Yes.
legally that close.
Yes.
But you do want that. Disruptors. You know what I found? I swear to God, every player, everyone, and I looked up a lot of defensive linemen, tackles, and edge rushers. It's almost impossible to find one of those players that somebody doesn't call him a first-round player. It's as if there's 70 players in the first round. And it's like, and what will happen is somebody will pick this guy in the second or third round. They'll say, he had first-round grades.
How about that?
There is I can tell you, every one of these guys that I was looking at, there are projections from legitimate people, but projections to say, that guy could go late in the first. That's what they always say.
Yeah.
They throw that late in the first round. That protects you to say somebody stepped up and took him. But then it's always like, then when he goes in second or third, say, well, he could have gone there. I heard Greg Cosell talking about it, and he said he likes to look at the player, who they are, but with the reality that not every skill set works with the way teams want to play, and depends on who you have there, right? If you have a player like Greg Rousseau, maybe you're looking for a different type of edge on the other side. If you have a player like Ed Oliver, you've got to match him with somebody. If you have Jalen Carter in the middle of your D-line, well, a lot of guys fit on next to him. So I do think sometimes you look and you go, well, this guy's better than that guy, but the fit has to be right. I would also say, pick the best guys. Unless it's a guy that you just don't believe can put his hand on the ground. He can't do those things that you do. But if it's a talented enough player, just put him out there and let him go.
We don't talk a ton on this channel about 3 technique, 1 technique, things like that. The Bills do seem to have new coaching staff coming in a little bit on the D-line. And I feel like that could open up the possibility of having guys, especially defensive tackle, that could do maybe something different than what we're used to seeing in Buffalo.
Yes.
And Michael is pointing at his legal pad.
Well, the reason I'm pointing at Kenneth
haven't
Grant.
had a point in a while.
I'm pointing at Kenneth Grant. It's the guy out of Michigan.
He's over there somewhere.
No, he's over there and over there and over there because he's 6'3", 340 pounds.
Slimmed down. He slimmed down
at
to
the combine,
330.
332 at the combine.
Slim,
Yeah, he dropped down.
Jeez. Tank.
He's one of those guys. He's a guy that I think of. He is a first and second down player that will tell you, I can be a 3-down guy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the big thing with a big player like that is eats up blockers, plays that way. Ideally, if you can keep him on the field and he plays all 3 downs, tremendous. I think with this defense, let's start with somebody who can get in the early downs and take up blocks, free it up for Terrell Bernard, Dorian Williams, Matt Milano to make plays. That's what he does. He's not some of these guys aren't stat guys. That's the one thing when you look at D tackles, they can play really well and not put up any numbers. So sometimes it's like, oh, did he penetrate? Did he get this? Did he get this number, that number? Where he'll go, I don't know. Again, I've seen as high as 14, 15. Then you see high into late first round. Is he a player that if they would really like, they would make a move for? I think a lot of places have mocked him to the Bills or being close to it. But to Dan's point, that's something they don't really have. They don't have that monster there to put next to Ed.
Yeah, I look at this draft And then when I look at the D-line, especially defensive tackle, because we kind of saw Daquan Jones' production go down last year, and especially because Ed is that smaller defensive tackle, which is much more of a penetrator, gets after the quarterback hits, which is great. I think you need, and as I go into this draft, I want a large human being next to Ed Oliver. That's where I'm looking at the most. So when I look at all these guys, there's some guys that are 6'7", 6'4".
I got two of them for you.
Yeah.
Jenna mentioned this guy. I think you mentioned him. Deion
Kentucky?
Walker,
Kentucky.
6'7", 331. Now he's looked at like more a project.
Quote, enormous human with elite size and length.
That's what I want.
Yeah, Lancer line cracked me up.
Another one is to keep an eye on if you're talking about size is that Alfred Collins of Texas. 6'6",
legit specimen.
332.
Quote, direct quote.
332. That height's a bit of a concern because sometimes
leverage.
Yeah, sometimes, and that's some of the things that the scouts have said. But again, if you're grabbing that guy well, I don't know about Collins as much, but certainly Walker would be a guy in maybe in a later round.
There's a guy too, Derek Harmon.
Yes.
Oregon. His NFL comp is actually Daquan Jones, which I always think is interesting. 6'4.5", blend of size, length, strength makes him tough to move. And we've seen how Ed can be so effective next to Daquan Jones when Jones is healthy. That's someone that I think was a name that popped out. I saw a couple people talking about him in the Bills and how that would work out. But seeing that comp, I'm like, that is interesting to have a guy that's already on the team.
And if I'm not mistaken, he played at Michigan State.
Yes, and then transferred
for his final year.
Yeah.
So that's another thing when we talk about production, the way it works with the NIL and the transfer portal, guys will go, and I don't blame them. They go for the money, but they end up where you normally be playing in your fourth year in the system. Now you're on a new team going out there trying to make plays, but he's physically a monster too.
It's changed so much.
Yeah, you talked about the stats for defensive tackles, and that's tough to evaluate because if you look at an edge rusher, you're looking at sacks, production in college. Javon Solomon had a lot of sacks at Troy, things like that. And I wanted to make sure I got the quote right. And I've said it before on here, and Jenna's smiling, so I think she knows where it's going. What Harrison Phillips said that a defensive tackle is like a fire hydrant at a dog show. And I just think that's an amazing quote by Harrison Phillips.
Yes.
I knew exactly
a fire hydrant at a dog show.
Oh my gosh. Very vivid imagery.
The quote is, I like to call my position the fire hydrant dog show. You've got to roll. You're the guy who's going to get pissed on. That is his quote.
Oh my gosh. Wow. That is funny.
There's a lot of play. I looked at some of the players and fans will know these guys. Jack Sawyer's the guy who made a big play in the national championship game. He is AJ Epinesa to me.
In what way?
He also doesn't like flags being planted on his field.
Yes, that's true. Yeah,
who's the guy you really like?
So the guy I like for them is Darius Alexander. Now here's
Toledo.
Here's a guy in
Maction.
Toledo. Quinyon Mitchell. What are they doing at Toledo?
Yeah.
They can play. The issue for him, he's going to be 25 this summer.
Wow.
Now, I look at that and I go, okay. D-lineman, I mean, Daquan's what, 34?
33, yeah.
Hey, let me tell you, give me 5 good years at the D-line for the Bills, and I'll take it in that case. That
Bean
doesn't
would take
concern
2
me.
good years.
Yeah, that doesn't concern me as much, and I don't know if it does. He's played there. He just appears to be the type of player that has been in that system, plays that way. Again, the knock would be he is not playing against the elite talents week in and week out, but he has the physical skills, the hands, does everything well. He's 6'4", 305. He can move. And, we've seen these guys. And that's what Mitchell did. Quinyon Mitchell went to the Senior Bowl and really showed up. And he was number 1 on Alabama's list. If he was going to stay in school, they were going to bring him in. But he didn't play there. But Alexander is a guy that a lot of people think slip in at the end of the round. Might be a second-round pick. He might be there if you're sitting there at 30 and you're unsure about moving. That could be the kind of guy. That's who I like realistically for where they're drafting.
You know what I do when we start looking at draft prospects? The first thing I do.
Comps.
I love comps.
Right.
No. Google who wrestled.
Oh, yeah, you got a wrestler.
Darius Alexander is a wrestler.
Oh, I didn't know he was a wrestler. Oh, God. Sean's going to love him.
That was a say.
By the way, speaking of that, our
Gable
guy
lost.
I know.
Congratulated the other guy on the podium.
That's classy
Big wrestler.
move.
Good for him.
Class-
Yeah, he
classy.
Crazy
went
that
back-
he could wrestle, win all those titles, go to the NFL, go to WWE, and then go back to college. College
Yeah.
is wild. These
It
days.
is wild.
College is wild.
Facts.
Back in my day, you just used to play in college.
Okay, so my guy also wrestled, but he's an edge guy. I didn't know if you wanted to keep talking about
Well,
interior guys.
we talked about some of those guys. I mean, you have, Walter Nolan as a productive guy, but these are most of the players. And then,
Look at that notepad.
well, I went notepad this time. I'm going to transfer this in a minute, but I would say of the D tackles, those are the guys that I thought of, trying to be realistic of, hey, yeah, you could always say, well, let's trade up to the
you
eighth
say
pick.
you don't
Get
want
Abdul
you
Carter.
don't want
Yeah.
Mason Graham.
Yeah, he's going to go.
He's also
Michigan.
a wrestler.
Damn.
I just also love looking at draft profiles, and some of the stuff that they say is unequivocally hilarious. Greasy hips. What is happening?
Ooh, the other guy was Tyleek Williams,
Yeah.
Ohio State.
Yep.
Violent.
Never drafted a guy from Ohio State, Bean.
Really? Yeah, by the way, people mention it. How did we forget James
James
Cook's a
Cook.
Georgia guy?
Yeah.
Nice pod. We're like, they're not taking Georgia guys. It's James Cook. By the way, Williams
That's why I
from
come here
Ohio
for this
State.
expert analysis.
Williams from Ohio State fell during his 40-yard dash at his Ohio State pro day. And that's a big
Oh.
man tumbling down.
Chris Jones
One
fell
run.
down.
Yeah.
Taron
There you
Johnson
go.
got hit in the face at the combine.
So that's two guys who've made all pros.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe. And two, I don't care about a defensive tackle running the
Yeah.
40.
Why not? How much can he jump? How high? How high can he jump?
Yeah.
Uh,
They like the word in the descriptions, violent.
violent, yes.
Like we said.
This
That
close.
So the player I like for the Bills, Mike Green,
Yeah.
edge, Marshall, wrestler, NFL comp, Alex Highsmith.
I loved Alex Highsmith. And my
Yeah.
voices, we are might sit a few plays out here, guys.
Plays with violence.
Yep.
Excelled at the Senior Bowl. No one had more sacks last season than him, 17 in 2024. Now, he has 2 times been accused of sexual assault. So
Yeah.
will that make him off of the Bills board? The player, I'm saying, is interesting what he could do with the Bills, but obviously that weighs into the process.
I don't think there's any question that it does. By the way, Marshall, most famous football player grad.
The green, I love that.
Randy Moss.
Randy Moss.
And their nickname? Great nickname.
Mean. Wait.
It's green.
Marshall Hurd.
The
Hurd. Hurd.
Thundering Herd.
The herd. I just know I like the color green that they have.
Oh, very good.
Yes.
The
It
Hurd.
looks nice with my eyes.
It's always
The
about you.
herd.
One more time.
I will tell you. Oh, by the way, though, yeah. So okay, so we're going to talk about some other
Oh.
players, but there's players like Shamar Stewart. I think
Yes.
teams are all over the map with him. Some love him, some don't have him on the high on the board. I don't. Sometimes I try to look and say, what is it about this player? And if you get him, usually those players have the physical skills.
Yeah.
And there's something about them, but he's been thought of as being a guy going relatively high. I just wanted to mention it for you.
Okay.
The Hurd.
Yeah, that's fair.
Another edge guy that you'll hear his name, and he may very well be on the board because there's questions again off the field, is James Pierce Jr. at Tennessee. He's 6'5", 245, can get after it, projected in the first round. Don't think he interviewed well at Combine. There are quotes from people around him that say uncoachable, had 1 foot out the door, not a great character guy. Now, this is what others are saying about him. The reason I bring it up, I have no idea. Never talked to the man, don't know.
Mhm.
not in the
But
building.
this does sometimes impact, as we know. So then you're sitting there going, Mel's top board there is going to have the talent of James Pierce. Because
Yeah.
when Mel Kiper is looking at the player, or whoever the analyst is, they are looking at the player. It's up to the team to then decide if this off the field stuff or coaching stuff is an issue. So you're going to see, like, how can we not take this guy? And it might be the case. These are the type of players that could be out there, and maybe the Bills say no, or they're not taking him, or you would take a flyer on him if he fell to the third round. But don't like to hear uncoachable, had one foot out the door.
Was he the guy that was really good last year? I think a freshman, he was really good, and then kind of fell off.
Yeah, and I do think this happens this day, and I'm not blaming it all on the way it is in college, but it really has changed. The evaluation, I said before, transfers used to be this big red flag, and why is this player out there? Actually, I wanted to check one more player.
You need to get a big board.
I should have the big board. He transferred.
Bean should be talking to you. You liked Brian Thomas.
Thomas.
And you liked Hamilton before that.
Kyle Hamilton.
Kyle Hamilton. Yeah, you had to go up to get Kyle Hamilton.
But you were in on it.
They had to go. And Tank Dell. That poor guy can't stay healthy. But I love
that's
Tank
the issue.
Dell.
I mean, hell of a player, but.
Yeah. By the way, the one thing about Kenneth Grant this could come into play if the Bills are in on him, is the Chargers pick ahead of the Bills. And he's a Michigan guy.
Harbaugh.
And Harbaugh is sitting there.
That's
and he knows
point.
him. Now, sometimes it might tell you something, but it depends on the team. But they're sitting there. So
but they do
there
have
are places.
17 5th, 6th, and 7th round picks if you want to use some of those to move up a couple of spots.
Yeah, it depends on how much. And you'd have to, maybe
you'd swap picks and then throw
get
in a
ahead of
5th, a 6th, and
I hope they move up.
his track record hasn't been great when moving up. Recently.
No, it started out.
Kyer and Kincaid are the last that he's moved up for.
No, I agree.
Didn't move up for Ed, didn't move up for Rousseau, moved up for Josh.
Moved up for Josh, moved up for Tremaine.
Mm-hmm.
It is funny. Sitting there was better than moving up.
Say again?
Sitting where they were. I mean, obviously,
Which
Josh
draft?
Allen is the exception. But they sat there for Ed. It was only at 9, but they got him. They sat there with Rousseau.
Yeah.
Got him. But they moved up for Kyer. We don't know yet about Kincaid, but clock's ticking.
Kincaid's NFL draft comparison. Zach Ertz. I mean, I say I want them to move up because they have so many picks, and also full disclosure for our jobs, it's exciting. Either they move up and the board gives us more time
Last
to
year
do our
sucked.
jobs. Last year was all that waiting, then the trade, then the second trade back.
How about that? At that moment when it was like the Kansas City Chiefs are on the clock.
Oh my God.
I had to look at it twice and thinking, did I miss that the Bills are up?
The media room, do you remember that, Dan?
Yep.
It's going nuts.
Yeah. I also remember, no spoilers, but we had all agreed in the media room we weren't going to tip the picks because there are people that can, and I just remember saying, oh my God, when it was the Falcons taking Penix. And I was like, that was the only one. I'm sorry, I'm spoiling that one, but that one was crazy. I'm sure we'll have more this year.
Yes. Okay. Anyone else, Michael, before we wrap up?
I think there are other players. There is a lot of defensive linemen, edge rushers in this draft. So you know what? You've said this before too. Take a swing at 2 of them.
Yep.
This is what they need, and this is the time to get them. So
the last time they swung at 2 of them was Basham and Rousseau. You hit on 50% of it. So, and again, large human being.
Yes. You say being or bean?
Being.
It's like you said large human,
then
comma,
his voice,
bean. Being. Okay, yeah, that's
Do you know how
probably our
happy
cue.
some of our viewers are? They're like, Dan's losing his voice.
All right, comment in who you all like draft-wise, D-line that stands out to you. Also comment in what you think the projection for the Hallmark movie is.
Sweet.
And Diggs.
And Diggs, yes.
And also, I'd just like to say this is officially the beginning of Irrational Dan time. The Atlanta Braves begin their season tonight.
This afternoon.
Fan Dan.
Yep.
Fan Dan. How have we never said that before?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay. All right. For Mike Catalana and Dan Fates, I am Jenna Cottrell. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. We'll catch you next time here on Buffalo Plus, presented by Connors and Ferris.